Dear diarrhea, diarrhea full of shit. Just play a lot of them stuff, and I know what else we go. So, sweet, sweet Katie Boo. Hey, girl, how be you? Hey, shorty. I wish I knew how tall you were. I'll have to look at that old video of you and Miss can eat a potato sideways. And see how you stack up next to her. Because I always thought you were kind of like petite, you know what I mean? That, and like I said, shorty is a term of endearment, as is boo. Those are the only two that I can think of. Oh shit! But anyway, I meant to shout this out. Maybe I did already. I don't know. I don't think so. Your latest audio presentation, your ASMR, where it kind of showed out the window there and the tree was blowing and it was just light enough where you could see, and then it like faded into darkness. I'm assuming you probably did that on purpose. You couldn't really hear the wind blowing. Sometimes you can hear, like, what are those things called, katydids or whatever out there, and birds. Maybe it's legit. I've said before, it's like, well, it'll be cool to kind of come hang out with you, because I'll be on like the second floor of story. Um, if you're like, shithole apartment, with the flashing neon light, of the tavern across the street, and the tattoo parlor and, the pawn shop and all that stuff. But it turns out maybe you live like in a, neighborhood, and you're renting a house. Maybe you own the damn thing. Maybe you fucked over a man. I don't know your story. You've lived in different locations. Some of them looked pretty nice. Some of them looked kind of crappy, like that one where like all your shit was in one room. But you've been in this one for a while, where it's got the hardwood floors. And that might be, I had said, maybe that's like a renter's thing. The people who own the house or apartment or whatever just tear the carpet up so they don't have to, because the people who live in it, for 6 months, a year, 5 years, whatever, and then eventually move out. That's one thing you don't have to replace. It's easier to clean and replace if needed hardwood floor, because you just tear up the floor and put it in instead of have to, tear up the floor and the pad and then put the pad and the carpet back in. And there's a process to, it's just a little bit more labor intensive and time consuming. More material, more waste, cost more to do, to pay somebody to do it. It's just, if you do it, everything about it is just more time consuming and labor intensive. Um, so, um, but anyway, sometimes I can still hear like sirens and garbage trucks and whatnot. Fatty McFatfuck, she must live closer to O'Hare. The mom with the tits lives, what did she say? Like 15 minutes from wherever she lives or whatever. And then Mrs., I guess, she's probably married because she got a kid, I would hope so. Mrs. can eat a potato sideways. Um, it looked like she lived like in a nice, um, she was like next to a window and you could see, it looked like maybe houses or condos or apartments off in the distance. And there was like open space. I don't know what that was, some sort of reclaimed, old gravel pit or a park. It didn't look like a park, it just looked like open space. I don't know if there was a trail, or maybe it's just that. It's something that's going to wait to be, eventually developed. Not sure. But anyway, I don't know what your chicken's story is individually, all of you. I know the mom, is married. I think she has one kid who's like kind of older. Y'all know each other. You don't really do stuff with that Ivy chick whose ass was too big. anyway, there was some stuff and some whatnot, and I didn't really watch it. It was like spend a day with me, and I was like, yeah, whatever. How about no? But anyway, I just wanted to say good night. That's a lot of like when I think about you, as I drift off to sleep, thinking about holding you as you drift off to sleep, and we drift off to sleep together. Um, I think about that, like it raining outside, be it here at my house or at your house. The wind. Um, Raining, but no lightning and thunder, because um, that doesn't work. I've lived in this house for almost 4 years, I think. And there was a thunderstorm that did that where it woke me up. I remember thunderstorms as a kid, though. Even cat for some reason. And as an adult, I never really did. Spent a lot of time driving over the road and whatnot. But I remember when it would rain or the wind would blow, the truck would rock back and forth like a lot because it's, a truck, right? It's a big vehicle. So the trailer's moving, the cab's moving. And I always liked that. Um, the noise of the wind and the cab rocking back and forth. That was actually peaceful to me, like a baby being rocked in a cradle. But also, when I was a young kid, probably early grade school age, my grandparents lived next to a railroad track, railroad crossing. So it wasn't only the click a clack of the wheels and the engines, the units or whatever when they drove by, but the horn, so and whenever they cross the actual road, it must be standard because they always have to lay on the horn like the entire time they're crossing the track. I think it's standard. It's honk, 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 honk as they cross the road. It's two that are the same, a short one, and then the long one as they actually cross the road. And there'd be more engines, so you'd hear the the big diesel engines powering the generators, and then the of the wheels, and then engines in the middle and the back. If it's a long one, sometimes they'd have two sets, like two to three. Rio Grande, black engines with yellow, well, orange, not stripes, but like whatever. The smaller engines, they weren't the big ones. Um, let's see, Amtrak twice a day, morning, evening. The ski train, I think, would go up there to Winter Park, I believe it was, just in the winter. We took it, and they'd run that up with one of the black engines, the Rio Grande, freight engines, and yeah, the lights and how they were set up. And they had one that like kind of swooped, kind of like in a figure eight. They had like two that were just right up in the front, I think. I don't really remember, but yeah, it was a cool thing, and I always found it peaceful. Um, and I didn't sleep with a fan back then, so I didn't have the white noise and the air moving. But yeah, when I heard that off in the distance, and it got louder and louder, and then like I said, even with the horn, it was I was cool with that, and you could feel the ground shaking and stuff, and just for like however long it took for that train to pass, so someone would be going pretty fast, someone would be going kind of slow. Um, yeah, just like in the movies, that scene that I got. What's his name? Elrod or Elroy or whatever, his apartment. How often does a train go by? So often you don't even notice, For that brief, 3 to 5 minutes, and there's always several boxcars that have a square wheel. So regardless of whether it was going slow or fast, all of a sudden you kind of hear this off in the distance, and remember you can feel like the ground shaking. So and it's, both sides and whatnot, and I'm just like, counting sheep. There was always this boxcar that had a square wheel. Um, and then when it was done, the end of the train or whatever, and then um, and then it's like the tracks made like this ringing noise, because all the movement and commotion on it, and that would like take a while to dissipate. And I was always disappointed, it's like peace and quiet, and I was like, man. So I'm kind of weird like that. So that was just something as a kid. Anyway, and camping, I picture us being in like a tent, in the wind, just. I actually find that peaceful for some fucked up weird reason, just like fucking chaos. I just kind of, and it's just how it is, because I've been camping, when it's winds blowing and the hail, be it actually in a tent. Because remember, I live in Colorado, so I've done lots of camping growing up as a kid in tents, in campers. I was in the Boy Scouts for a few years, stayed in cabins, and all that shit. Made the mistake of sleeping in a bunk right next to the window. Oh, and pitching my tent right next to the river. Woo, mistake. But good stuff. So we'll have to do it up, girl. Maybe we'll see Sasquatch. Yeah. But was that a thing? I didn't even hear her mention that. Because you do that every now and then. Oh, she's a special pilot. Mariah Carey. Do you like her or something? What was that other girl? Ariana Grande or whatever. So that's kind of funny because wasn't she dating the Beaver? My mama don't like you. She likes everyone. That's funny. What a diss. Oh man, and the dude she's with now, like I said, man, chickens be crazy. You know, Tom Brady, Brad Pitt, all these high caliber dudes, and still the chicks are like, man, fuck you, motherfucker. And then these, and then now she's with this dude who, like I said, he's a few generations removed. Okay, his great great great. We'll throw in one more. Great granddad was a caveman. Probably not Neanderthal or Neanderthal, however it's pronounced, but Cro-Magnon or one of those. And here he is, and Ariana Grande or whatever her name is dating him. So the Neanderthals were the baddest motherfuckers when it comes to that shit, because they were like short, stout dudes, and they hunted their prey down until it got tired, and they ended it with spears and shit. They weren't smart enough to channel it, using the topography of the land and having people on either side, with like sticks with like big acceleration apparatus, that made it go really fast. You know what I'm trying to say? Can you picture it? It's like, I don't even know what it's called, but it's a thing, and you can, it makes it so you can wing it, like 10 times faster than you could just with your arm. They didn't do shit like that. They just chased it down until it got tired, surrounded it, and poked the shit out of it until it died. And then what they did from there, I don't know if the broads followed them and they just set up camp, for the next, 2 weeks while they devoured all that meat. I don't know. I don't know if they discovered fire by then and how to make it. If they could, cook it and kind of like burn it and char it so it could last. I don't know. But, Yeah. Guess that's all I gotta say, baby. Sweet thing. Shorty. Boo thing. Come here, boo. Give me a kiss. So, good night, Katie Boo. How's your mental? Feeling all depressed and shit? I figured you would. It's funny that you mentioned that. Shortly after Mrs. Eat a Potato Sideways. Shout out that kid. No shit. Like I said, everybody's just a little younger. You know, either in a relationship, family, kid, whatever. It's just a real kick in the ass for you. And I don't know if you're aware. If like people tell you, that you're the prettiest damn thing. Since sliced bread. What? Wait. What? You're hella strong. What did you say? I don't remember. What? You are strong. Yeah. You're like, mm. And she's like, oh, thanks. That's so sweet. Shucks. You're the best lesbian girlfriend lover a girl could ever hope for. I check out the funny shit folder? I just stumbled across that fucking algorithms or whatever. And the pilot. Well, I didn't have that bit. But Darcy or whatever her name was, the lesbo. This is back in the day. I guess she was getting married. And Al Bundy and Bud Bundy and some other dude who I didn't recognize didn't get invited to the wedding, and he's like, "Why not?" And she's like, "It was a tough decision, but I just feel like you and Bud Bundy, or the actor, whatever his name is, would see, me and my lesbian lover walking down the aisle in tuxedos, and you would think it was funny." And he's like, "What's funny about two women in tuxedos?" And he started to laugh, so it's like, shit. Yeah. You ever seen Disorganized Crime? It's got Ed O'Neill in it as a kid, and Fred Gwynn, that guy, kind of the big guy with the long face or whatever. That's the guy who played Herman Munster. Now, Lily, someone brave, dashing, courageous, intelligent, charismatic. Oh, no, not my Eddie. No, Lily, me. Oh, Herman Munster. If you say so. In the meantime, bring in the trash. See, I said that because they do shit like that instead of take out the trash, because they're weird and shit. They're creepy and they're kooky. The Addams Family. That's the wrong one. The old black and white one. Yeah. What was his name? Gomez? Yeah. The Andy Griffith Show. Good stuff, man. The Tick. No. How embarrassing. An aardvark bringing an ant food. But, anyway. Looney Tunes. Boy ain't got no sense. Foghorn Leghorn. Wile E. Coyote. He doesn't speak. He holds up signs. But, yeah, those are cartoons that our little Oliver are going to watch. Or if we have a daughter, Susie Q, whatever you want to name her. I'll name the baby if it's a boy. You name the... Wait. And the dogs. Well, you already got yours. You like that song, But, yeah. I mean, if I were a troll, is one bullshit, and I did shit like that. But, yeah, that's Fred Gwynn. Kind of looks like him, doesn't it? That is Herman Munster. Anyway, another 20-minute video. Fuck. So the guy said to call him tomorrow at 7:30. So I'm gonna call my boss at like 7, and I'm just gonna put on plain clothes, go take the drug test, and fill out paperwork. And I don't know. He may want me to start tomorrow, or Friday. They said they're generally a Monday through Friday, type outfit, but every now and then, they work Sunday. And a lot of it is based on like people who want to work. It's like, okay, we got enough. I'm the low guy on the totem pole, so But he also said, there's a lot of dudes out there who want the hours. The 25-year-old dude who's got 4 kids and a wife, who just divorced him and shit. And he's like, I need that money. So it's not always, the fucking new guy, And like I said, that's how that game works, Every job, I used to drive in construction and all that shit, You work 12, 13, 14-hour days, and then you drive home. You eat, watch some TV, shit, shower, go to bed, get up and do it all over again, So, even driving over the road, every week, I would run out my hours, So, 70 hours in 6 days. So, Lottie Dottie, we likes to sleep nice and haughty. Actually, chilly. I'm so glad the winter's rolling around. If we hustle, we could be a loving couple by Christmas. We could. We really, really could. I could be holding you in my arms, put your butt on me. And like I said, I'm going to show you a way to cuddle that you've never been cuddled before. I'm willing to bet, because people are fucking idiots. So, we'll cuddle. It'll be you and me. And sometimes, I'll be this way. Sometimes I'll want to hold my pillow. You can cuddle me. You can throw a leg over me, however you want. We'll work it out how we want to sleep, whatever our sleeping patterns are. That'll be your side of the bed. They have a spot for Cindy. I'm assuming she has her little bed. Or maybe she sleeps on the floor. Bullshit. She sleeps probably right next to your head on the pillow. But with her head resting on your neck. Anyway.